The first time I stopped mid-sentence, he didn't notice. Not because he meant to hurt me, but because the room had already filled up with other things. It was late, one of those quiet nights where even the fridge sounds loud. The kitchen light was the only warm thing in the apartment, spilling soft yellow onto the counter. I remember holding a mug with both hands, not even drinking it, just needing something to do with my fingers. I started telling him about my day the way I always used to, like unwinding a string from inside my chest. Nothing dramatic. Small things. The coworker who kept interrupting. The moment I laughed too loud at something that wasn't that funny because I was tired. The way the elevator mirror made me look like I hadn't slept in years. I wasn't asking him to fix anything. I wasn't even asking him to respond perfectly. I just wanted to be witnessed. When we first got together, he was so good at staying. Not in a grand way. In a gentle way. In the way that felt like I could finally unclench. It started with nights in his car parked outside my place, the engine off, the windows fogging at the edges. We'd sit with cheap takeout on our laps, the radio low, and he'd ask questions like he actually had time. What was the best part of your day? What did you not say that you wanted to? And when I answered, he didn't jump to the next thing. He let it land. He remembered my patterns. The way I get quieter when I'm overwhelmed. The way I talk faster when I'm trying not to cry. He could tell the difference between me being fine and me performing fine. Sometimes I'd be halfway through a story and he'd reach over and just touch my wrist. 2 fingers. Barely there. Like a bookmark. Like, I'm here. Keep going. We had a rhythm back then. Sunday mornings with the curtains half open, the room washed in pale light. He'd make coffee too strong, I'd steal sips and complain, and he'd smile like he'd done something right. At night, we'd lie in bed and talk until our words got lazy. Not about dreams or plans, just small truths. The kind you don't say if you don't feel safe. I told him things I didn't even know I'd been carrying. He didn't flinch. And I think that's why I stayed. For a while, it felt like we were building something that could hold weight. Even on days when we didn't have much to say, we still had presence. He'd sit on the floor while I cooked, back against the cabinet, head tilted up to look at me like I was a movie he liked rewatching. Sometimes he'd reach out and tap my ankle just because it was there. And I used to tell him everything. Not because my life was fascinating, because it was mine. And he made it feel like mine mattered. Then, slowly, the questions stopped coming. Not all at once. That would have been easier to notice. It happened the way a room gets colder when the heater breaks, gradual enough that you start blaming yourself for shivering. At first it was little things. He'd say, "Tell me about your day," but his eyes wouldn't lift from the screen. Or he'd say, in the exact same tone no matter what I said. Good news, bad news, something in between. Sometimes I'd pause, waiting for him to ask something, anything, so I'd know he was in the same room with me. And the pause would stretch and stretch until I'd fill it myself, talking faster, adding details that didn't matter, trying to make it interesting enough to hold him. One night, I told him something I'd been holding in all day. I said, very casually, "I think I messed up at work." It came out light, like I was trying not to scare it into becoming real. He nodded, still scrolling. And he said, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine," used to sound comforting when he first said it. Now it sounded like an ending, like a door clicking shut. I remember the exact second it shifted in me, this tiny internal recoil. Not anger, not heartbreak, just a quiet, embarrassed feeling like I'd spoken too loudly in a library, and even after explaining what happened, he just said, "Why don't you just talk to your manager tomorrow? Just talk, just fix it, just be simple." And I nodded, like that could help, while later lying awake listening to his breathing, the faint hum of traffic, my phone face down, thinking about texting a friend, but not doing it, because I shouldn't have needed to. And it made me tired, not angry. Over time, I caught myself editing my stories, saving my real thoughts for moments alone, convincing myself he was stressed, busy, tired, because I loved him, not wanting to make him a villain. But fairness didn't stop me from shrinking. It just made me do it quietly. I learned to wait for the right moments to speak, notice the timing of his attention, and started leaving pieces out. Not to punish or test him, but because it felt useless. My body learning the shape of the silence. Even when we went out, I tried to step into openings in conversation, only to retreat when I saw his neutrality, deciding not to drag closeness out of him like heavy furniture, and I saved small triumphs and memories for myself, leaving them unshared. Our routines continued: the same couch, the same bed, the same polite conversation, but the air between us stopped feeling shared, quiet becoming a space to survive. I mirrored his avoidance, letting moments pass without speaking, organizing my feelings into notes on my phone, proof that I existed in my own life. Tuesday, wanted to cry in the car for no reason. Friday, got good news, didn't share it. Sunday, laughed with him, still felt alone. We didn't break up in a dramatic scene. We kept going, kept being kind, but kindness became a hallway, long, quiet, echoing, where holding hands could mean two completely different things, and most of the time, I kept my thoughts and feelings to myself. A warm glow trapped behind my ribs while the rest of the apartment stayed a little too cool.
Some relationships don't break in a spectacular way. They just stop collecting you. You notice it in small gestures or the absence of them. At first, it's tiny. The question that used to land like a soft hand on your wrist no longer comes. The follow-up that used to signal care doesn't arrive. The MMS and yeah, that's fine S start to feel automatic. Attention, the quiet glue of intimacy, begins to dissolve. And the person who used to meet you halfway, who used to let your words land before moving on, starts drifting toward convenience, toward comfort. Comfort looks like sharing a space without being fully present. It looks like kindness without attunement. Love isn't a villain. It's just two nervous systems quietly choosing the path of least resistance. You start adjusting, shrinking. You save your stories for the shower, for the commute, for the notes app. You stop speaking because speaking feels useless. And the strangest thing is, you don't stop in anger. You stop because the room won't hold you anymore, and your body learns to protect itself in silence. When someone asks, "You okay?" the answer is almost always safe and small, because you no longer trust that the room can carry the rest. And over time, you realize that sharing, once the lifeblood of connection, is now optional. You are next to someone every day and still feel alone, not because they've chosen to hurt you, but because love and attention are not the same thing. And the quiet truth settles in. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't the leaving, it's noticing that you've already started to leave yourself.